Welcome to another episode of the West Michigan Minute Podcast. It's not a minute long, but it is a podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Geenan, real estate broker here in West Michigan. I lead the #1 team for Coldwell Banker in Michigan and the top 3 team for Coldwell Banker in the nation. And I'm joined by one of my team members today. I'm very excited for this, Stephen Hoeflich. Stephen's been with us for 3 years.
Yep.
You've been in real estate for how long?
Been in real estate since right after college. So I guess 8, almost 9 years now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been with you for over 3 years.
It's been a wild and fun ride.
It has been a fun ride for sure.
Stephen, you have how many children?
I have 3 kids.
3 kids,
Yep.
An amazing wife, Michelle.
Incredible wife. And my kids are 6, 4, and 1, so we are definitely in the thick of it.
You're
in terms of our schedules.
In the thick of it.
In survival mode a little bit.
And you have a little bit of a turkey problem in your backyard, I hear?
You know what? They're holding off at the moment. But
Okay.
You deal with grubs, you're going to deal with turkeys afterwards. And they destroyed our lawn last year. So we are still trying to recover from that.
Still trying to recover from that.
Emotionally and with the lawn as well.
You like to have a nicely manicured lawn, and they just don't work well with that, do they?
They don't.
No.
They've been a thorn in our side for too long.
Anyways, it's fun to talk about that, and it's also fun to talk about real estate related stuff. And today we're actually going to be talking about a very interesting topic, right? We call it the real estate commissions, news, lawsuits. You've probably all seen the headlines. Unfortunately, a lot of what you've seen in the media is not accurate. So today we're going to be talking about what is accurate and what should you know if you're a consumer, and realtors too. If you guys are out there listening to this, I think it's good for everybody to learn. We've kind of studied it a lot, and we know the ins and outs of what's going to be happening. And I think too, it's just good for buyers and sellers to know what's true and what's not, and what to expect moving forward, right? And so,
Absolutely.
you work with buyers in particular, right, Stephen?
Yep, every day.
And I think it's interesting because what is a buyer's agent? Why don't we start with there? What do you do as a buyer's agent?
Yeah, there's so much involved in being a buyer's agent. I know a lot of it is there's just like kind of the stigma of like what does a buyer's agent do other than opening doors and turning on lights and that sort of thing. But man, from the beginning of the process of starting a conversation with a buyer to getting them through the whole entire process is, countless hours and days and time spent. But I think the most important thing is just being the advocate for your buyer through the whole process and explaining the process to them and just giving them guidance through each step of the home buying process.
Yeah.
So that they know what they're looking for and what to expect.
I think a lot of people, especially first-time home buyers, don't realize necessarily how much goes into buying a home, right? And the complexities of it. I even think people who've bought a home or two, maybe even, don't even realize the first home they bought was probably a pretty relatively standard purchase. The second home maybe has more complexity to it, and that third home, maybe if it's a lakefront home even, there's a lot more to it. But buying a home in general, especially depending on the circumstances, there's a lot of moving parts, right?
Right.
And your job, and we work together through that process, the way that our team is structured. We're trying to advise the client through that whole process. And I think that people don't realize that's what a buyer's agent exists for.
Right.
Right. Is to help the person answer questions, but also to look out for the pitfalls, things that they might not be aware of. Right.
Yep.
What is one thing that when you're showing a home to somebody, you would think the person may know this, but a lot of times buyers are not aware of that. Do you have anything in particular you can think of?
I mean, there's just so many factors that go into a home. What makes a home, a home? Just the structure, the foundation of the home, roof, mechanicals. There's so many potential big line items, that a lot of times buyers are just really concerned about what their costs are going to be, especially a first-time home buyer.
Oh, yeah.
What they're, what do they need to know about how much they're going to have to pay even after a closing takes place. So I think just helping, yes, it's important to know that you love the kitchen and that it's the right size in the yard and all those fun things, but you have to be aware of all those really important factors as well. You know, to make sure it's a good investment.
For sure. We'll get more into the buyer agent piece of it, but I think one thing I wanted to talk about on the commission side of it is obviously we all make a living some way, somehow, right? As realtors, we do get paid, and it's through a thing called a commission. And what that means is when somebody goes and buys a home or sells a home, when that home closes, a portion of the proceeds of that goes to two agents. The seller has their agent and the buyer has their agent. and we get paid a commission out of the sale of the home, and it's usually a percentage of the sales price. However, that's negotiable. It always has been negotiable. And I think a lot of these news outlets are trying to say that's going to be changing. Things are going to, like, the buyer's agent commission is going away. And what they're misunderstanding is a big piece of this whole thing is that more or less there's been these lawsuits where people are trying to, my understanding is they're trying to get more transparency. And frankly, we are all about transparency at the Geenan Group, right? Everything that we do, we're very transparent with our clients about on the selling side as well as on the buying side. So actually what they're proposing, something we've been doing basically since the beginning of time.
Right.
Right. I think though, my prediction is that because of these changes that they're making, that there's probably going to be 30-40% of realtors that get out of the market just because they don't want to take the time to learn these new sets of rules. Again, these are rules that we've been following for a long time. And I think that's a good thing. Honestly, I think it's a good thing if people that are serious about real estate, selling homes, know what they're doing. It's going to make our job easier because when we work with other agents, everybody's on the same page. Something we've been fighting for a long time. We want to have it where people are getting good representation, right? And so I actually think it's going to be a good thing. And it's honestly a good thing for us. When we go in with a buyer, what do we do? Like if we have a buyer and they want to buy a home, they reach out to us and they say, hey, I want to buy a house. What do we do with them?
Yeah. Always we like to start the process with a buyer consultation, buyer meeting, where we sit down and just chat through what the process looks like.
Totally.
To your point, people are looking for transparency. And if you're just going and meeting someone and looking at a house and then they want to buy the house and you're just going full steam ahead, there is so much involved in that. Yep. So if you can really sit down and explain, like, this is what the process looks like, this is what you need to know, this is our role and how we'll support you, that's just really important to lay that out early, and then they know what to expect through the process.
Yep. And we've been doing that for forever.
Yep. As long as I've joined you, we've been doing it that way.
Yeah, I think, and so actually these rules are going to force people to have those meetings. Again, we see the value in that. We've already been doing that. And so I think in that regard, it's a good thing that we're forcing all realtors to have those meetings. So you can't just meet an agent at a house that you've never met before, walk through it kind of blindly and not knowing how they're going to help you or not. Like, we're going to actually have these conversations where we say to you, hey, we're realtors. We're going to represent you if you buy this house. And then as far as your offer on the home, we're going to make it really clear. By the way, we're going to be compensated as part of this purchase, and here's how we're going to be compensated, all of which is negotiable. But again, it's always been that way, right? And so I think it's good that they're kind of standardizing these things. And I think it's good that we're forcing realtors who may not already be doing this to really get on the bandwagon of doing it the right way. So when somebody does a buyer meeting with us, we bring them into our office here. Sometimes we'll meet at their house, but oftentimes we like to bring them into here. What do we go through with them in a nutshell?
Yeah. So, I mean, we explaining the process a little bit of what it takes to buy a house and all those different steps. But a lot of it is just getting to know them and what their goals are.
Yep.
Learning, obviously, what they want in a house, their criteria and everything related to that. But also just what their real estate goal is within their timeline. Is the most important part to them just finding a home that they love? Or is it, it being a really good investment, an investment property? There's a lot of different direction with that. So
yeah, I think a lot of times people put the cart before the horse.
Right.
They are like, let's get out there and start looking without really having a game plan and without really trying to actually understand what is it that we need to be thinking about. And that's what we're here for. That's what we do well.
Right.
We go in, we ask you all the questions that you need to ask. We're going to develop that plan. We're going to connect you with people along the way to help make that plan happen. We're actually also going to go out there. We're going to knock on doors, right? We're not just waiting for homes to get listed on 100%. Zillow. We're out there hustling. We're going to make sure that we get into any property of anybody that's thinking of selling. We're calling people constantly. How many people have you called so far this week?
Oh, I can't remember what day it is today, but I would say probably 150 or so.
Yeah. Guys, he's called 150 people this week for our buyers. Right. Trying to get out there, trying to look at what is there that calling homes that aren't even listed for sale, calling people that we know that might be interested in selling, and doing whatever we can to get out there.
Right.
And so we're hustling to earn the commission that we're going to get paid at the end of the day.
That's right.
But we're going to make sure that you get the home that you want, right? And I think people need to understand, like, not every realtor is doing that,
Yeah.
unfortunately. I think a lot of people understand that realtors wait for a home to get listed. They send you a link to it, and we do that. And we're going to send you a home when it gets listed on Zillow. But we're also going to do way more than that and get in front of way more homes than that, right? So, again, I think all this stuff, the idea behind it is, let's make sure if realtors are getting paid a commission, they've earned it. It's negotiated into the deal. There's transparency about it. And we're so on board with all that. We think it's a good thing. Now, when somebody is selling a home, right? I can talk on that a little bit more because I meet mostly with sellers. So when somebody is selling a home, what we often do is set up a time, take a look at their house, get in there, get to know it a little bit better. And then we sit down with them. We go over, what do we think it's worth? And so a part of these commission things is also me sitting down with them and telling them, hey, if you're going to sell your home, here's how we would structure the commission. The commissions cannot be listed on the MLS. That's going to be a change. But so at the end of the day, we're still encouraging our sellers to offer buyer agent compensation.